Well, hello and welcome to the channel. I thought I'd come up to my local where it all started, Queen Elizabeth Country Park, and tell you something that just isn't that great, but it needs to be said. So let's dive into it. Right, so about 15 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, I used to be into kayaking big time, and we were doing assisted Eskimo rolls, and unfortunately, as I was coming back around to the surface of the water, dislocated my shoulder. Now that got popped back in, that was absolutely fine. But then I never really went down the rehabilitation process, and unfortunately it never really recovered properly. So apart from the fact that I had a little bit of a lack in movement in certain areas and it could be uncomfortable when sleeping, wasn't really a problem, so therefore I wasn't really bothered about it. And then what happened, I got into mountain biking. So Halford Special, that's where it all started. Came up to Queen Elizabeth Country Park and then blasted it around some trails, thought, well, this is really underwhelming, and bumped into somebody called Richie, who is a good oppo of mine, and we served together on HMS Dauntless years ago. So he took me down some trails and I was like, wow, this sport has potential. And before you know it, I'm spending hundreds, then thousands, then 5 bikes later. It's just gone absolutely wild. But in that time frame, I've had so many offs where I've hurt myself and never really allowed myself to heal properly. And around 4 years ago, I came off and I injured my shoulder quite badly. I displaced it all, and as a result of that injury I had to go and have a course of steroid injections over around a 2-year time frame. And for the shorter term it certainly made a massive difference, but then I was told, right, you have to have surgery on this, Mike, otherwise we can't provide any more of these injections because it's not the long-term solution. So I was essentially told that I would have the surgery, it would be a 50-50 whether it would work or not, and then I'd go down this 9-12 month rehabilitation process and get to the end of it and be like, hey, you know, all's good or it's not. But then the conversation came up of, you're gonna keep riding your bike, Mike? And I was like, well, probably. And then I could just see the disappointment in the surgeon's face, as he knew if I come off straight away and land on that shoulder again, I'd just undo all the damage and the good work that's happened. So I turned down the surgery, stupidly turned it down. And as a result of turning that surgery down, I've come off a few times since, and I've broken my fingers, I've broken my elbow, I've got a dodgy right knee, my shoulder is 10 times worse, I can barely sleep sometimes, and I'm just on a course of painkillers, and it's not the solution. So I have made the hard decision to stop mountain biking. Now, for me personally, I've been down in the dumps for months, and I haven't really wanted to produce this edit because I've just been in denial about the whole process, to be perfectly honest, because I left the ship, HMS Montrose, and kind of said, you know, I'll go out and ride more, and that was in May, and now we're almost sort of end of October, and here I find myself like, what are you doing? But actually, I've sold pretty much everything I ever owned mountain bike related, because I'm either all in or I'm not. And you know, I can't just go ride a bike down a trail at slow speed and enjoy myself. It's just not how I function. I like the adrenaline fueled rides, the danger, the risk, you know, the consequence, and just the thrill of being able to get through all that and be absolutely fine. And if I can't have that, then I can't see the point in doing it. So as a result of where I find myself, it's just disappointing, you know, because I've made so many friends. I've committed 7 years essentially to mountain biking. I created and established a very good group, MTB Fanatics, which will be taken over by a friend of mine called Ads. So I'm going to kind of leave that behind and just let that function as it does. And then I've got, you know, 300 videos worth on YouTube, which has taken me like 6 years to produce all that stuff, and it's the time, the effort and the drive to want to achieve it, and some doing well, some not, but I'm extremely proud of kind of what I've done to the community of mountain biking. I'll always look back at that and think, you know what, you did some really bloody good stuff there. But I suppose it's not all doom and gloom, because what I did do is go out and buy a motorbike, because before I met my wife over 20 years ago, I used to ride bikes, and then I met her. She said, he's going past your driving test really if this is going to work. So I did. I never looked back. And then I thought, you know what, I actually fancy a bike again. So I went and bought myself this. So I still like the adrenaline fueled rides. Got myself a Suzuki GSX 8S. It is brand new, and it's an absolute beast. Clearly no substitute to riding the trails with your mates and you know, having a good time and thrashing yourself down. You've got to be careful on one of these. Obviously the risk, the consequence, the danger, so much more increased. You just got to ride within your limits like anything, and you certainly don't buy one of these thinking, oh, you know, what if? You can't be like that, otherwise you'd never ride. But you know, it is a good substitute, and it's nice that my wife finally allowed me to get back on two wheels again on the road. So what does all this mean in terms of the channel and the direction that will go? Well, I've got some ideas. I certainly want to keep engaged with the channel when it comes to mountain biking, in particular photography. So I'm going to find myself doing that and turning up to events, and you know, if I can make a little bit of money here and there, then why wouldn't I do that? But you know, I'm going to have to keep the channel active, because otherwise if it stays dormant too long, new policies with YouTube is they'll shut the channel down to kind of clear up the servers, I suppose. I don't want that to happen, because I want to be able to look back at this stuff and think, you know what, wow, you did some really good stuff there, and you know that this is what I could do back then, and I'm glad I bloody did it. But that's where I find myself, and I want to be completely upfront and honest with you guys, because you've invested the time to get me to 10,000 subs, to have millions of views on the channel, and just come back and support that content, and I'm really appreciative of that. So there's not really a great deal more I can say about this. It's disheartening. It does annoy me that I'm in this position, but what can you do? I've thought about it for a very long time, and it's the right decision. Otherwise I'm just going to write myself off and I won't be able to ride anything, you know. So that's kind of where I'm at. This is a huge thank you from me to supporting the channel, watching, viewing, subscribing, being a part of the community, all right, that keeps it all ticking over. I had no expectation of this channel, so for it to achieve what it did with sponsorships and channel support, it's just exceeded expectations massively. And I'll look back at that and think, yeah, you know what, you know, compared to some channels, you've done pretty well there. No names, but just thanks for being a part of that and enjoying the journey with me. But I will keep the channel up and running somehow. I just got to sit down and really work it out, especially with the busy periods at work and stuff. But I'll see you on the flip side, and until then, I'll see you for the next one.